Hello, everybody. Good afternoon. This is Rachel Treece, and I am thrilled to be joined by somebody who I've known for many, many years. His name is Terence Mauri. He's the founder of the Hack Future Lab. He's an entrepreneur. He's a mentor in residence at the MIT, and he is one of the Thinkers 50. Terence, I'm so excited to have you.
Rachel, I'm super excited to be with you.
Great stuff. I've got a few questions because we've been through a really difficult and challenging couple of years, and the world continues to be challenging and ambiguous, and all of those things. And I know that one of the things that you specialize in is future thinking and future thought.
Yes.
So I'm really curious, with all of these changes that are going on in our planet right now, and the changes that we've experienced in the last 2 years, what does the future of work look like?
It's a great question, and it's a question that we're all thinking about because everything's changed. People changed, priorities changed, technology changed, the office changed. And the question we have to ask ourselves is, do we watch the world change around us, or will we be the ones driving that change? And I say to people, anybody that's been around over the last 2 years, you're already a futurist. Think about what you've been doing in terms of using all these different social media platforms, Zoom and MS Teams and Hopin. I think the last 2 years, in a moment of, call it a sort of imprintable moment. It's a moment of reflection. It's a moment of reframing. And we shouldn't waste that opportunity to actually harness the last 2 years as a tailwind for accelerated learning, growth, and reimagination. And that starts with some great questions. So this first question that you've asked is a really important one. What does the future look like? And I think an important message to say is today is the slowest it will ever be in our lifetime. And depending on your personality type, that's either terrifying or exciting. So how does that message make you feel?
Very excited, very excited.
Yes, exactly. That's how we want to feel. So actually, things are only going to accelerate. This creates tremendous risk, but also tremendous opportunity. And we need to start thinking about 3 areas, 3 dimensions: the workplace, and the workforce. So not just the nature of work, but why we work and how we work as well. And I think the point here is that what we're looking for now is more autonomy, more freedom over control. And this is a great opportunity to elevate and energize our why, our purpose, why we do what we do.
I agree. So we talked about the future of work itself. What's the future of leadership look like? Or what's the future of great leadership? Let me put it like that.
Everything's being disrupted. So workforce models, technology, business models, everything's going off like yogurt in the fridge. Most companies are still using leadership playbooks from the 1950s. Think about how much has changed in leadership. And actually, the answer is not as much as we would like. The truth is, I think most people are overmanaged and under-led. And what we need right now in this world is more leadership. So I think there are a number of inflection points that we are experiencing. We're moving from command and control or hierarchy to care and co-creation. We're moving from hierarchies to networks, from bossed to unbossed, from ego to eco. And I think leadership is about we, not me. Leadership is not one person. It should be a team. In Africa, they call this Ubuntu. It means I am because we are.
Oh, I love that. And I love that move from ego to eco. Love it. Fantastic.
For a real world example, I spent some time partnering with Novartis. They're on a mission to reimagine healthcare. And as part of that transformation, one of their mantras is leading and embracing a perpetual state of beta. That actually, it's not just about transformation, it's about transcendence. And I think this is where Henker is such a great word, evolution. And what they're doing at Novartis in terms of leadership development is moving towards unbossed, inspired, and empowered. And what that means is pushing down decision-making rights. It means removing the barriers to work, creating zero friction. And it means going big on context setting, pace setting, and direction setting. It's about context over control now because the world is changing so fast.
Yeah. And what do you see as being the biggest mistakes that leaders are making? As we see,
there's so many out there. I saw one recently. It was a unicorn based in California, and the CEO fired about 500 people in a Zoom call. Okay. And yeah, this is one example. And I think what we're lacking is empathy. We're lacking compassion. We're lacking that human-led future. So I think, as the saying goes, often leaders are blind to their own blindness. And so I think it's an opportunity as well in terms of this future of work and future of leadership, is we want to scale futures that are more human-led, more intentionally diverse, more purpose-driven, and more we than me. So the biggest sins, I think, are narcissism. I mean, I once had a boss whose nickname was the Shadow. You'd be working away, and all of a sudden the air would go cold. You'd feel a shiver down your spine, breathing like Darth Vader, and then a question: "What are you doing, Terence?" And the research is really interesting here because we can all relate to these bosses, and there's many different nicknames out there: the Shadow, the Interferer, the Silent Assassin, the Know-It-All, Perfectionist. And we've all got our favorites. But the research is really interesting. There was a 10-year research study in Sweden looking at the effects of a bad boss. The ratio of people who had heart attacks was 3x higher when they had a bad boss. After family and life satisfaction, your direct relationship with your boss is the second most important factor in your overall well-being. It's that significant. And the research I'm working on at Hack Future Lab is showing that 1 in 5 people would trust a stranger more than their own boss. So there's a lot of work to go on. There's a lot of work that we need to do in this area because trust is the ultimate human currency. Money is the currency of transactions. Trust is the currency of leadership.
So if there are any leaders out there that are listening to this podcast and thinking, "Ooh, crikey, what's the shift I can make today to help me show up differently?" What would you say that shift needs to be?
It's a brilliant question. I think there are 3 big shifts for leaders to think about. Number 1 is who we are. What I mean by that is strengthening identity. It means purpose. It means culture. It means a value agenda. When you've got a really strong, operationalized, activated purpose, not just a company purpose, but an individual purpose that's energizing, that you can connect with on a daily basis in a really deliberate way, you have more vitality. It's a simplifier, it's a multiplier, it's a clarifier, it's an energizer. So shift number 1 is really evaluate and energize and elevate who we are as a leader and as an organization. That means purpose, culture, and the value agenda. Shift number two is how we operate, how we decide. We want to scale cultures where it's high quality and high velocity. Cultures of speak up rather than silence. Cultures of courage over comfort.
Yeah.
So how we decide, how do we make decisions is a really important shift. And that means going big on decision rights, autonomy, freedom, and responsibility. The final shift, and it's a big one, is how we grow. I think one of the paradoxes that leaders face today is performing for today while transforming for tomorrow.
Right.
And that creates a very restless, real paradox of demands on our attention, because leadership's about attention. And we're suffering burnout, we're suffering overload, overwhelm, and anticipatory anxiety about the future. So shift number 3 is, how are we going to grow? How are we going to scale a sustainable future? inclusive growth, healthy ecosystem, heightened well-being, and an organization that doesn't just focus on profit maximization, but also human maximization.
Yeah, absolutely. And coaching leadership style. How important do you think a coaching leadership style would be to support sustainable performance? I'm passionate about performance, but to create sustainable performance.
I think coaching is a superpower. Coaching is an incredible way to identify blind spots that people are blind to. Great coaches can also ask questions that haven't been asked before, questions that can move us into different ways of thinking, different ways of leading, and can remove barriers to performance as well. So I believe that coaching has entered center stage, and every conversation can be a coaching conversation, a conversation with some really great outcomes that shift behavior. I did some interesting work recently with the leadership team of Pfizer. Right. And as we know, Pfizer had this moonshot of scaling a vaccine within 12 months or less. And what they're doing at Pfizer is scaling these new, they call them lightning speed behaviors, act at the speed of science, crush bureaucracy, elevate purpose and trust, and make every conversation a coaching conversation where we play to strengths, we flag blind spots, and we really energize ourselves for the road ahead. And that, for me, that's really inspirational. So I think coaching is an incredibly powerful tool, a catalyst for more energy, more performance.
Brilliant. Terence, thank you so much for talking to me this afternoon. Absolute pleasure, as always, to talk to you. Love your energy. If you were to give one message to all of our listeners, what would be, the bottom line here?
There's a couple of key points here. It's no longer business as usual. Business models, leadership models are going off like yogurt in the fridge. And you can't navigate a new world with an old map.
Oh, I love it. I'm passionate about quantum leadership, don't you?
Yes.
Yeah. It's no longer Newtonian.
Exactly it. This is why I mentioned it, to energize.
Terence, thank you so much. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. Fantastic. So, I hope that gave some points there that will be useful.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure.